movie fans, and welcome to the Boopcast, episode 73. We are your hosts. I got a haircut, and
I re-dyed my hair.
it was blue last week. Oh wait, did you dye it again?
I dyed it again because
didn't notice.
it was faded. Well, the problem is that the dye didn't stick super great at near the bottoms when it did at the top. But the problem is the top's always kind of hidden. So, yes.
Hello, hey Larissa. Thanks Magic for sending me here. I mean, you probably figured you'd end up here anyway. Welcome everybody. Thank you Magic for the raid before we started. Welcome to the Boopcast.
Yay.
I need to apologize. I definitely did forget to upload the last one a week after, like I said I was going to. Totally forgot. And it has gone up an hour ago. Sorry.
I remember like 2-3 days ago, like right as we were both going to bed, you were like, oh shit, I need to do that. I'll do it in the morning.
And I still forgot.
And then the morning came around and...
Literally last night, before it expired on Twitch, I highlighted and exported it to YouTube. I was like, that was, well, you know. Did anyone think I was going to do it on time? No. Anyway... welcome to the Boopcast. We are chatting episodes 2 and 3 today, which I did forget about. Definitely thought it was only episode 2. And was naming the stream when I went, oh wait, shit, there's been 2 episodes.
Yes.
I can't believe that episode 4 is coming out tomorrow. I don't know how we're a month into Ruby season.
I know.
I don't know how that happened.
It feels weird. And like we're almost halfway done with it already.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Ooh. I don't like it. But apparently all of the like animators and stuff are like, oh my god, episode 4 is so great. So I'm like, that means something awful's gonna happen.
It always makes me nervous when the animators are like, I can't wait until you'll see this episode, because every time they say that, somebody fucking dies. Like, horrifically.
Although, I have theories, but we will get into that later.
We'll get into your theories later. I also did not realize that the last one was 2.5 hours long until I uploaded it to YouTube, and I was like, whoops.
Listen, it was the start of the season, so we had a lot to cover.
We had theories, we had, shit to talk about. Something really good or really bad. It's usually really bad. If the animators are excited, that makes me nervous. But yeah, we will jump into episode 2
I just
first.
got this.
You go, what?
Oh. That didn't pop up in chat. Why did that pop up when Larissa did it one time? I have a 3 consecutive stream watch streak.
Oh, I can't see
apparently.
that. Oh, maybe it's not on in my settings. I'll
maybe,
look at it later. I don't know if there's something I need to enable or what. I'll look at it after. Remind me. Yeah, I can't see that. Yeah, so we'll get into episode 2 first, and then we'll talk about episode 3, obviously. And Corey doesn't have notes, and neither do I. So we're winging it today.
I intended what I should do is I should like take my episode 2 notes before I watch episode 3, and then like take episode 3 notes. So that way I like still, instead of having to do both at once, do it like boop boop and, not let them influence each other. And so instead of doing that, I just didn't. So
what I really should do is when I watch the episode, immediately watch it again and take notes. But I will never do that. So I don't know why I have these thoughts, because I know that's never going to happen. That's what I should do. You know what we should do? We should watch it and take notes together. That's what we should do. Because then we're holding each other accountable.
Well, but then we're also in...
We're going to discuss it too much, I know, and we're going to end up with the same notes. I know.
Plus, the other thing, too, is that I do like seeing what people talk about on Twitter and stuff. So, because so many other people have so much better theories, or they're like, oh, this, or in episode 3, I don't know why I completely misunderstood what was happening with Neo at the end. Like, I was like, what? I'm so confused by what's happening here, and like, I asked my sister about it, and she was like, yeah, I don't really know what was happening with that either. And then I saw on Twitter people talking about it, and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot.
I'll be honest, until you said that, I had to just think just then really hard about what happened with Neo at the end of episode 3, because I did completely forget about that. It's like a 30-second long clip at the end of the episode. So,
Mhm.
also, these episodes were long. They were
Yeah.
so much longer than the premiere. Wasn't 3 like 20 minutes?
3 was 20 minutes. Yeah.
Over
Well, I
20
mean,
minutes?
I think it was that was its runtime, so it was actually like,
I think its runtime
18
was
minutes.
22, wasn't it? I don't know. I'll have to have a look.
Hold on. I have it up
Open
right
my
now.
Crunchyroll.
20 minutes and 23 seconds.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So,
And then I think
like 17 and a half minutes, give or take.
mhm. I think that episode's 2 runtime was similar to episode 1's, but I think that episode 1, it had a lot of, well, I know that some people were talking about, because the like preview teaser thing was in there, that was like 2 minutes of episode that people had already seen.
Yeah.
And then it was also
Yeah,
just a lot
episode
of like
2 was
setup and
17,
stuff.
almost 18 minutes. And episode 1, yeah. Episode 2 is 2 seconds longer than episode 1. So,
But it felt so much longer.
it did. Well, yeah, it doesn't help that like the first minute and a half or so of episode 1 was shit we had already seen before. So I think that contributed to it feeling a lot shorter than it actually was. But also it just went by in a flash, that episode, and episode 2 not so much. So I don't know. It just felt longer, even though it wasn't technically any longer at all. But episode 3 definitely did feel longer. It felt like a complete length episode.
Yeah.
And it was so fucking good. It was so good. Here's you last week. I'm gonna call this boy out for a second, because here's him last week.
Yeah.
But not last week. The last podcast. I can't say last week. We didn't do it last week. It was 2 weeks ago. Here's him being like, I don't think we'll get that much action this volume. And along comes episode 3.
Yeah, and
Jesus.
listen, I did not expect that the episode where they were going to be playing a board game would involve so much stabbing bitches.
Well, that was your mistake, because the second I saw that board, I was like, oh, it's about to go down.
Well, I was
like,
also
clearly.
expecting. I thought that it was going to be chess as well, so I thought that there would be, and not just like this side's pawns go against this side's pawns and murder. Like,
my brain immediately jumped to conclusions, because I knew that we saw Yang, Blake, and Weiss shrunk in the trailer.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is where that's coming into play now.
Mhm.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, this is about, like, they're gonna play the game and they're gonna fuck shit up and it's gonna be cool, but I didn't expect it to be quite that awesome. Very impressive fight sequence that was, but it's in episode 3. We need to talk about 2 first. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But get
3...
to that awesome sequence. I know 3 was so fucking good. To be perfectly honest, I don't remember that much about what happened in 2, because I only watched it once, and it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I would say it was almost 2 weeks ago. So, yeah. Okay, well, 2 did give us a lot to work with, though, especially because, like, I mean, it picks up right where episode 1 left off with them. I think we're in a fairy tale, and them all kind of being like, that's ridiculous.
Okay,
the talking mouse, and Weiss being like, of course I trust trash.
Fucking Weiss in that episode. Oh my god, she's losing it big time. But I was getting really annoyed with Weiss and Yang being like, we're not in a fairy tale, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? I'm like, after everything you guys have seen and been through, and everything you know about maidens and like other fairy tales being real, is it that far-fetched to you that you could have fallen into this fairy tale?
Mm-hmm.
And why is everyone just like dismissing Blake and not listening to her when she clearly knows quite a lot about this story?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Well,
like, can you
especially
just
because
stop being idiots for 5 seconds?
it's true. But yeah, like, I mean, it's a story that they all read as kids because
Yeah.
they're all like familiar with it, but it's clearly that Blake,
It seems like it might have been one of Blake's favorite stories from the how much
hmm
she knows about it.
yeah, and also Blake's the bookworm, so
Yes,
makes
it's.
sense.
Mm-hmm. Imagine if they fell into Ninjas of Love.
Oh, now that's a katana.
uh,
I'm still waiting. I have been waiting ever since that episode should be released for them to say, "Now that's a katana" in the main show, and they've never said it,
we're gonna
and
be
it
waiting a
makes
long
me
time, I think.
so
I
mad.
know. I just. That
The
being
the
said, you don't
the
really
two
want them
things
to
I'm
just
waiting for.
shoehorn it in somewhere just to be like,
It's true. It
ha
does have to
ha.
be. It does have to be meaningful.
Yeah. Meaningful. Yeah. It has to be appropriate for the
hmm
for the situation.
Can you imagine if in episode 2, when like Penny's sword shows up and Little just goes, "Now that's a katana,"
Oh my
like
god, that would have been funny. It would have killed the mood a little bit.
it would have though. This episode 2 had a lot of.
Right, the auction, yeah.
Well, it also had a lot of people divided about like the comedy in Ruby. Like there were a lot of big opinions of people being like this it, it's like too whiplashy between the like really sad and then Weiss hitting herself in the head with a rock, like, people were like they weren't vibing with it, and I was like, I don't understand that.
I saw
Personally, I thought it was
literally none of
fine.
that, but I don't really follow the social media sort of
Yeah.
Ruby ness. I don't know what the word I want is. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoy the style of the like mixing the really serious in with the kind of almost slapstick comedy. Um Especially like watching Weiss throughout episode 2, I was just like cackling to myself because she's like it's a bit of an unusual look for her character. She's normally so composed and well put together and rarely like breaks her composure. And when she does, it's usually out of anger, not out of losing her mind over
Yeah.
their situation
Of
and
course.
fucking
Of course she has
talking to
trash.
herself.
There's a little story in it too.
They're just incoherent mutterings in the background while there's actual conversation going on in the foreground, and she's just, out back there just muttering to herself and just, moving her hands around and pacing. I'm like, this is so unusual for Weiss's character, but I think that's what makes it funnier, is the fact that it's Weiss behaving like that.
But it does also make sense too, because of course she'd be the like super logical thinker out of all of them, and be like, no, it's improbable, but that there's an explanation for all of this.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Clearly,
she's been dumped into this extremely improbable scenario and she doesn't know what to do. It just breaks her brain. She ends up going a little nuts. It was very entertaining, to say the least. I'm slightly worried about her, but she'll be fine.
yeah. I was about to say, we also later in the episode, she kind of talks about the failure of their plan and like her losing her home and all that kind of
all of that trauma that she just
all that
experienced.
trauma.
Yep.
But I'm just like, I'm so sad for the girls because I'm like, but y'all saved so many people. Like so many more people would have died in Atlas and Mantle if you guys hadn't done what you did. Like,
I think because of their current situation as well, like they just got dumped here after all of that happened and with no explanation, no idea where they are, no idea what's going on, and they haven't had a minute to deal with anything. And and also they don't know what's happened to everyone else. They don't know if anyone
Yeah, they
made
don't
it
know what happened on the
safely
other
to
side of the
Vacuo.
portal.
They don't know what's going on over there, and the guys over there don't know what's going on here. They just think they're all dead. So it's like there's this. They've been thrown into this now bizarre situation, and they're having to figure that out, and at the same time be like, oh fuck, you know, about everything that just happened, and like having it all hit them while they're trying to now figure out the new predicament that they're suddenly in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I was just so sad for them in that episode because I was like, you didn't fail. And then
Yeah.
even, Weiss is like, well, maybe Jaune in Winter, they still kept the relic safe. And I was like,
Oh, it's gonna be a shock for them when they run into Jaune later.
and that's what I think's happening in episode
Oh,
4.
definitely. We're good. I mean, it's been 3. I'm like every episode I've been like, and Jaune or Neo, Jaune or Neo, Jaune or Neo. Okay, there's Neo. So Jaune next, yeah.
Well, I mean, in this does segue back into episode 2. After they have their discussion about this being a fairy tale, they discuss the series of events that happen in The Girl Who Fell Through the World to Alex, and that, she was captured by the hunter. She met the hunter mice. She got trapped by vines. She lost her knife to the raccoon, and she fought a Jabberwocker. And then she had to get her knife back and um, beat the Red King at a board game. Met the Curious Cat. Met the Rusted Knight, and then escaped through the tree.
I'm
And
curious about what
so
happened to the Red King because I have not
I
read
am
the
as
fairy tale, so
well.
I don't know. And I kind of don't want to read it because I want to be surprised by what happens.
I know.
I don't want to know what happens.
I'm in the same place right now because I'm like, the book is right over there. Like, I could open it up and be like, what happens? What happens? But I'm like...
And knowing you, that is a very large temptation for you to just be like, I want to know what happens.
But the thing is I'm also kind of like, because they were expecting to meet the Red King, I'm like, I don't necessarily think that Alex dealt, like, that Alex did something to the Red King.
No,
like,
I don't think that's the case. I think that's happened outside of Alex's story and before the girls have ended up there. And Jaune. The girls and Jaune.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like time is a weird thing in this round. I feel like it's not perpendicular to Remnant at all. So I don't think time flows in the same way. I've found myself wondering about the realm a lot over the last couple of weeks and being like, so if time doesn't flow the same, like, does anybody here age? Like, is that is aging a thing here? Like how does familial stuff work? Because the Red Prince is very clearly not organic, I suppose.
Yeah, because he's a porcelain doll.
Yeah. So
and like everybody is put in their place to serve a purpose.
Yeah. So I'm like, is this like almost like a Toy Story kind of situation where everyone here is like toys that have come to life, not toys necessarily, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. That like they're alive but they're not, and it's like I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, it is interesting because on the other hand, Blake comments when they see Jinxie, he's a lot older than I thought he'd be, and he's got like gray on next to his eyes and like his whiskers, and he's like got a walking stick and stuff.
So he has clearly aged.
So he has aged compared to when Alex was there, and then like, something happened to the Red King that seemingly had to do with humans, based on what that one guard said.
So that, implying that there's been other people that have fallen into this realm since Alex and before them. Yeah. Which is interesting to think about, because it's like, how did those other people get here? Because we are only aware of the one way to get here, and that was falling into the abyss through the... I
wonder how Alex got here then.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's
how did she get there?
In the book over there.
And it opens up up the question of, like, who the heck is Alex and how did she get to wherever this is?
Mhm.
And then, like, if there's been others, how did they get here? Who were they? Like, you know, you could fall down the rabbit hole, no pun intended, of, like, wondering what the significance is of other people falling into this world the way that they did,
Mhm.
or if there are indeed other ways of getting here than
Yeah.
through the relics.
Mhm. Well, because the other thing is too is that like these are fairy tales in Remnant, and fairy tales, you know, were some of the fairy tales were true and they happened, you
Uh-huh.
know, years and years and years and years ago. So it could be that like maybe Alex accidentally found herself in possession of a relic before Oz rounded them all up, or maybe like the places that the vaults are located. Maybe there was something about those locations that like already had some kind of weird tear this into a pocket dimension, and she stumbled her way into one of those, you know?
It's the
Like Alice
question,
fell down a tree and, you
yeah.
know, like
It's the question of, like, what's the time frame here? How long has it been since Alex was in this realm? How long has it been since the people after her were here? Like, what were the circumstances of their arrival in this realm and their escape as well? I wonder if Oz isn't the linking factor here. I wonder if Oz and Alex knew each other somehow. Because what you say about, like, Alex finding herself getting her hands on the relic, he is the linking factor for the relics. The relics sort of revolve around Oz, so and Salem.
I was about to say it'd be either Oz or Salem, because
Either
especially
Oz or
like
Salem, yeah, is the linking
after
factor.
the gods, you know, recreated the world, essentially, like they were the only two magical beings left.
Yeah,
She may
she
have been
could
a
have been a
maiden.
maiden. And the people that fell after her also could have had a connection to either Oz or Salem or both of them. That some of them could have been maidens. Like, it's just, it opens up a whole, like, jar of questions of, like, what's the significance of this place and the people who come through here, and what's their connection to Remnant?
I only just noticed
What are
that
you gritting
Inky's
at?
behind
Yeah,
you.
the fluffy. She's so fluffy. She's just cleaning herself. That's not a cushion, it's a cat.
I was just like, I was like, what's moving? But oh, it's Inky.
It's Inky. She's just cleaning herself. Ellie's under your desk. She just loves to be in here while I'm recording the podcast, I guess.
Mm.
What were we talking about?
Well, we were kind of just talking about the realm and time, like talking about ever after, because we also did get the confirmation from Blake that the realm that Alex fell into was the ever after.
Inky's distracting me now.
Which
She's moving around. Inky!
look at her go.
Dude! Do you know how many people can see you doing that right now? Nasty. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. We got an interesting like kind of volume set up from Blake, and as well as like just some more information about the world as well. In episode 2, especially, like we found out that each of these things is called an acre, and like as we find out in episode 3 that like the Red Prince is in charge of his acre. And so I'm like, wait, but then was one of the mice in charge of that beach one, or do they not necessarily all have leaders? And like,
Or is the
what
beach
is
like its own separate sort of thing? Like, does the beach go all the way around the island? Is the question, because this is an island, I think, a very large one. But yeah, I mean, it's just we have so little information to work with that there's just too many questions right now. Where we're like, there's so many factors at play here, and we don't have any of the answers yet. Still,
I am still honestly, the more that we're learning about the world, I still think that like there is some kind of like person in charge there, that there is like a storyteller of Ever After, or
Mm.
like, because I'm just like, the fact that everybody has a purpose, and like it everything's really segregated and everything. I'm just like, this, it feels like somebody is controlling all of this, in
Yeah.
charge of all this,
There's some
like.
sort of mastermind behind it all, some kind of author per se.
Mhm.
Um, like a Chuck situation in Supernatural. Um, yeah, where there's just one person who's like writing all of this out, and is in control of this realm. Um, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. I had a thought and I lost it. Nope, it's gone. Oh,
It's gone.
it'll come to me randomly. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to remember the sequence in episode 2. I don't see it as clearly as 3. Um,
Yeah. Well, after they have their whole discussion about it being a fairy tale, and like
uh
kind of laying things out as for Alex's story, they then start heading to um Little starts leading them towards the town.
Oh, my
And
thought just came back because this is where it was with the interactions between Blake and Yang in this scene.
yes.
Adorable, first of all. Blake making a pun was like,
Hmm.
I'm like, that is peak, like,
How disarming.
yeah. And like the way that they were just like giggling and carrying on, and like Weiss's sort of reaction being like it's about time, and Ruby is as clueless as ever. Not
Well,
just off in her own little
I was gonna say, because
whatever's going on up there.
there were people who interpreted that as like Ruby like being like, what? What do you mean? They're not like, they don't have feelings for each other, or
No, I
like
think she's
that
just
kind of
off in
thing.
her own little fantasy land right now, like just so all consumed by what's going on in her
Yeah,
mind.
because she wasn't even looking in the direction of, because
Mm.
like you could see where Weiss was looking and Ruby's looking over this
Yeah,
way. So
she's like
like,
she's not even present
mm-hmm,
mentally in that moment.
mm-hmm. Especially because a lot of people point out that like, Ruby was the kind of the first one to acknowledge Yang and Blake's clear
Like she's
feelings for
aware
each
of it,
other.
definitely. Yeah.
It's just, she just, didn't see the moment. And so when Weiss was like, it's about time, Ruby was like,
Nah, what'd you say? Yeah.
what? For what? What are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
so I know that was just a
Her
weird thing
mind
that I
was
saw, where
elsewhere.
people were being kind of like, oh, Ruby. And I was like, no, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
that.
not
She's
it's not a
just,
it's not a moment of like Ruby being unaware of what's going on so much as it is she's like her brain was just completely
nah, she
elsewhere.
just missed it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But also
I
bees.
know, so cute. They're adorable.
I also just love the way that it was like, they just almost held hands, and like Yang's pinky went out, and I was just like, oh,
I wish they would
gay
just do it
panic.
already. Like, just hold hands. Who's watching? Nobody. Like, it's just the 4 of you down here, so.
Bees. It was
Mm,
cute.
it was
And
very
then
cute.
we already kind of talked about the moment with Weiss, because the next thing that happens is Weiss and Ruby have their talk about the failure and everything. But
Mm.
um, then after that, they come to the bridge to cross into the next acre. And Little's all like, I've never been this far from home before. I can't find my way back. I'll just build a house here.
Yeah.
And
Little.
they're all like, what have we done? We kidnapped this poor creature.
Well, I mean, they weren't of their own free will, so. Little is just too cute. They're so. In a lot of ways, I think they're, like a parallel to Ruby almost, where Little is like so innocent and naive and knows nothing about the big wide world, and they're
Hmm.
just like doing their best as they go, and like, just utterly ignorant to, um, I suppose the way that the world is. They're just like
I'm
off in
also
their own
concerned about
world.
how
Yeah.
much they sleep. I
Yeah.
swear, like, half the time they're on screen, they are sleeping, and I'm like, are you okay, Little?
Little's just tired, man. It's hard being that tiny.
I guess, yeah.
um. Yeah.
But yeah, that was another one of those cute moments where of the like physical comedy of Ruby, where they were all like, what have we done? And Weiss is
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll handle this.
Yeah.
But yes, it was cute.
Very
And then
cute.
obviously they get into town afterwards, and all of the townspeople are like little board game pieces, and I saw there was a shop in the background that was called Patty Cakes, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, they find uh Jinxie, and Blake does say that like um they have to, that Alex had to barter for her knife,
Mm.
and that but because she didn't know their customs, she started a war amongst the townspeople.
Right.
So
I mean, they sort of did the same thing here.
as say, but that I think is I'm like, did they really? I don't necessarily think that the girls did anything wrong, like
Not
because it was
necessarily, but
because
maybe
it was
going in with guns cocked was not the best idea.
uh, but still it was like once the items were, especially because if anything, Little was the one that did something wrong,
That's
because
true. Little was the one
Little
trying to
stole the
thieve the.
sword.
Yeah.
But it was then like after all the items switch back to their actual forms, that everybody like, well, it's a fake blast. I was like, I feel like this is more like a little part Jinxie, a little part Little, maybe a tiny part Yang's fault,
Mm-hmm.
like, because Yang did fire a gun, but
Yang being Yang, just Yang things. Well,
best.
look, to be fair, her arm got stolen.
Hmm.
It's her arm. She wants it back.
Yeah.
She needs
Listen,
that. Also, it was expensive, probably.
oh
Um,
yeah.
Not that she paid for it, but still. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. She's a
Yeah.
little
Well, listen.
protective of her
Oh,
arm. Understandably.
hey,
Hey, Bubbles.
Bubbles. But yeah, but so Jinxie had three items.
Mm.
It was a scepter, a green doll, and a little like crystal bunny thing. And he sold the crystal bunny thing for a hug. And Little said,
I love that guy
"Hugs are
too at the
very
end.
valuable."
Yeah, at the end of that scene, taking his hug
Hmm.
back.
Yeah. Oh.
No.
But it was also the thing I was most confused about is I was like, why was it a bunny statue when it was a transformed mouse? Like,
I don't know.
I was like, what? Okay. Because the other things, I mean, I guess kind of made sense that like the scepter was, a weapon, and although granted the doll was clearly kind of symbolic of Penny, so, and the fact it was Penny's sword,
Yeah.
so.
And then the thing that the scepter that was Yang's arm was like black and yellow, so it's like, you know, clearly that was the one, because it like vaguely resembled the actual
Mhm.
object. But yeah, the bunny one was, yeah, I don't know about that one.
It was just I like on my second rewatch, I was like, I thought that was a bunny statue. So I was like looking at it and I was like, that's definitely a bunny statue. Why is it a rat? Like,
I don't know.
I guess just jinxy things.
Mm,
But yes. But and then the price that Jinxie asked for
yeah,
Yang's arm was oh, what was it?
I can't remember
Was like what it feels to be loved, or
how it feels to be
what it
loved. Yeah.
yeah, or something like that, which I'm like, That's a pretty steep price.
Mm.
But also, how the fuck did those stupid knights pay for it then? Because I'm like, surely they don't know what it means to be loved.
I don't know.
And then for the doll, it was Penny's sword. The price he asked for from Ruby was enough hope to fill a jar, and she couldn't do it.
My poor baby. She's lost
so
her
little,
hope.
so little thief did for her.
Mm. Little thief.
And I just love that Little in that scene was like fair's fair or like something. They said something like that.
Mm. I can't remember, to be honest.
But that's why I'm like, did Little like actually pay the price then?
No,
But
I'm pretty sure they were just trying to make off with the. With
yeah,
the
that's what I think as well.
I'm pretty sure they were trying to steal it.
I wonder if that was actually like them calling back to when Yang asked them if Jinxie ever stole stuff from their village, and Little was just like,
oh,
no,
right.
Was like, no, they just come and take the things we're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
And
probably
Weiss
what
goes,
they're
that
doing
seems
here,
like a legitimate business practice.
Yeah. They're just like, well, he's not looking, so I'm just gonna pinch this. Fair's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very strange customs these mice have.
Yeah. Yeah. I did really love the scene at the end too when they're all leaving where Yang just runs by with her arm like, I got it.
Yeah.
And then Blake's like, we gotta go. And Weiss is just like, ugh, strolling out.
Weiss is just along for the chaos ride.
It was so indicative of all of their characters. Where I was just like, Weiss, no cares. Being prim and proper, and Blake's a cat.
Yeah.
And Yang is like, woohoo, yeah.
Fucking Yang. Oh my God. She cracks me up sometimes with how like it's just like almost carefree she is in like she's like, I got what I came for, I'm getting out of here, bye. Like, you coming or what? Like, she cracks me up with like how I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like she just doesn't give a shit sometimes of like she's just gonna do shit her way and fuck the consequences.
Well, it's even why she was like, okay, so do I just start hitting him? Like, I'd rather punch him. Like she was just like, we have to trade. I want to beat him up.
I want to choose violence today.
Or I guess I should say, I want to beat them up because they did. They all did refer to Jinxie with they, which actually I did also pay attention that the Red Prince is the only one that people have referred to as him and his and he. So everybody else has been they, but the prince, I wasn't sure if the prince was also they, but it definitely is.
No, he was. Yeah, especially, they were saying he and him for the prince. Yeah.
And on the signs in the town about advertising his birthday party was His Royal Majesty invites you to his birthday party, like. So yes.
Yeah.
Gotta pay attention to them pronouns in Ever After.
I have a feeling that gender doesn't play very significant roles in this realm.
Yeah. Well, especially because everybody's a purpose.
Yes.
And it's interesting though that the Red Prince is in charge of an acre and is the only one to really have a gender as such thus far.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, the king we know was he him as well. They referred to him as a he. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So then after they escaped the town, Yang wanted high fives and everyone left her hanging.
Very rude.
High five? High five?
Nobody's in the mood for high fives, Yang. She's happy because, like, up until the end of episode 1, she thought she was dead and here all alone. And then all three of them showed up, so she's like, okay, I'm good, let's go get my arm back.
And now she's got her arm back.
Now she's got her arm back,
cool.
she's like, hell yeah, I'm on cloud 9 right now. Why is everybody so sad?
And Blake's sad because they're ruining everything, and
Weiss is just because she's losing her fucking marbles, and she's
I was about to say, Weiss is like, we're in a fucking fairy tale.
if Ruby was not PG-15, that would absolutely be Weiss. What the fuck is going on? Just once I want to hear Ruby Weiss say fuck. Just one
I know.
Time.
Just one time. Please.
Mm-hmm.
Just once. Please. But yeah, and then Ruby's all sad because, Penny's sword and depression and bottling up your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when Weiss once again tries being like, we know, why do we have to follow the story? We know where we're going. Let's go to the tree. And then,
but it doesn't work like that.
Gets caught in a loop.
Mm-hmm. She's just so determined to be like, let's get the fuck out of here as soon as possible. Hang the rules. Like, this is ridiculous. We can just leave. But they obviously can't.
And then it starts raining again when Ruby's sad. It's only Ruby, though.
Yeah, it's the realm is only reacting to Ruby's emotions, which is interesting.
Because, I was going to say, granted, Ruby is also, I feel like, feeling a deeper sadness than the rest of them. Except, maybe Weiss earlier when she was talking about, not having a home and stuff, but it didn't start raining, so.
Yeah, the soldiers who were running up, though, were saying someone's crying.
They said someone's sad.
Oh, someone's sad. That's right. Someone's sad.
And I'd be sad, too, if I ruined the king's or the prince's birthday party.
So I wonder if it, yeah, because Weiss was crying in episode 1 and it didn't rain then. So.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So it is only reacting to Ruby
so far,
which is interesting.
Yeah. I wonder if it doesn't have something to do with her silver eyes.
Maybe.
Because she's the only one of them that has silver eyes. So I wonder if that in some way is like her magical connection to this place.
Mm-hmm. Or again, I also do think if this place is being, if there is some storyteller watching them through this place, then Ruby is clearly their target for whatever reason. Maybe because of the silver eyes or just because, Ruby's the most manipulatable right now.
Ruby's the main character. These other ones are sidekicks.
I mean, how dare you, but also
don't kill me. I'm just saying.
But and then Ruby gives her really good speech about Penny.
I know, God, just trying to make me cry over here.
Literally, when they cut to all the soldiers crying, I was literally like, "Me too, guys, me too."
I feel that.
But yes, I also love that they all they all came running up on little toy horses.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's just the little.
It reminds me of Monty Python, the Holy Grail, when he's running around on a pretend horse, and there's a guy behind him with coconuts just the whole time. It reminded me of that for some reason.
But yeah, it's just the realm just continues to be so ridiculous, but I love it so much. And yes, and that's pretty much where episode 2 ends, is with them handing over the sword to secure an invite to the birthday party so they can beat the Red King at his own game, continuing in Alex's footsteps.
They made an interesting parallel with Volume 1 here, actually, that I noticed having watched Volume 1 recently. Where Ruby says, we're going to the birthday and let's all stop pretending like we know what we're doing. Because in Volume 1, when Ruby and Weiss are lost in the Emerald Forest at the very start, Weiss is like, you know, being like, oh, it's this way, like pretending she knows where she's going. And then Ruby calls her out and says like, at least I'm not pretending like I know everything. I'm like, that's an interesting. I don't know how deliberate that was, but it was an incidental callback to like volume 1 of Ruby being like, stop pretending like you know what we're doing because you don't.
I mean, given episode 3 had a lot of callbacks to volumes 1 and 2, I wouldn't be surprised if that was an intentional thing.
Yeah. I love in episode 3.
Especially the way that this volume is also just deconstructing Ruby.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of parallel being drawn. And there will continue probably to be a lot of parallel being drawn between this volume and volumes 1 and 2. I love in episode 3 when it's the start of the chess game, and Ruby just points at the pawn. She's like, "Can you move forward 2 spaces, please?" Like she's so like timid about it. I'm like, "You're so cute." You're so
well, I mean,
adorable.
listen, would you? If I had to play a board game, I'd be like, "Do I move?
Yeah.
But you're sentient. Move, please."
It's almost like, excuse me, I'm so sorry, but can you go forward, please? It's so cute. She's so polite about it.
But yes, so now on to episode 3. Yeah, and it starts with them going to the palace, and there's all these like white pillars and stuff sticking out of the ground. Which does make me believe that like there was at one time the like White Kingdom, especially given that, you know, that later during the board game it's white versus red.
Yeah.
And all the white pieces are all broken up and like.
And he doesn't like green, clearly.
He doesn't like green. So, but it does make me. I just does make me wonder. I'm like, was there a white king?
Maybe.
Or a white queen? You know, and like what happened between these kingdoms? Did they used to coexist? You know, I'm just like, these are answers we'll never get. But I'm like, but what happened in this acre? Especially given like it is the entirely red, like the entire thing is red.
Yeah.
So I'm like, was it all white at one point, or
what's the story? What's the lore of the Red Acre?
What's the lore? Tell me about Ever After.
I need to know the backstory.
But yes, and then yeah, they get to the palace, and you know, a whole introduction of the Red Prince.
The Red Prince is the most insufferable fucking little turd.
He's
but
so
it's
insufferable.
Done so well. I'm like, this is exactly what he should have been like.
I was about to say, like, yeah, he is perfectly a 5-year-old. Yeah. Like, a very entitled 5-year-old. And it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's interesting because the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland is a grown woman, not and I think that I don't know if the prince is supposed to be grown and just acts like a child, or if he's actually a child.
I think he's actually a child.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Because I mean, it is one thing where I'm also kind of like, you know, what we talked about earlier with like, do people age? Like, you know, would he have eventually grown up to? Well, I mean, will he eventually grow up to be king? Will he grow?
Not yet.
Not yet.
He kind of
Neo hasn't got there yet.
He kind of reminds me of Rumpelstiltskin in a way. He kind of felt Rumpelstiltskin-y to me, in that like Rumpelstiltskin is a little man who throws a lot of temper tantrums, but like when he doesn't get his way. But yeah, I don't know. It was so well done though.
Yeah.
Definitely
and just all of his mannerisms as well.
The right amount of insufferable little twerp, spoiled princeling, bloody.
I even love the
child.
Weiss was like, "Was I this bad?"
Yeah, she's asked that a few times at this point over the course of the show. Like, did I used to be this obnoxious? Like, it's been a couple of times now that she's said that. Every time they come across a character that's like a spoiled little rich shit, she's like, did I used to be like this? Because she's like so self-conscious of it now because she's like completely not that person anymore. It's
Mhm.
so weird as well to go back and see her in volume 1. I'm like, God, you're an insufferable little cow. I cannot stand you. And like, um, to where she is now is like, you know, night and day. Not the same person in any stretch of the imagination.
Mhm.
Mm. It's so funny that she's like so hyper aware of like the way that she used to be, and she's grown so far from that at this point that she's like, every time they come across anyone who is remotely similar to her, how she was, she's like, oh God, the cringe, I can't. Like, she just is having this internal cringe crisis of like, ah, I like, if this is how I used to be, I understand why I had no friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also I did see people who were um I don't know why it suddenly made me think of this, but there were people who didn't like the characterization of Weiss in episode 2, with her being, kind of like, her losing her mindness and all this stuff. And people were like, this isn't Weiss. And then I saw a lot of people who were calling back to in volume 2 during the board game
Yeah. Her
when,
inner monologue, yeah, and it sometimes her outer monologue. She has a
hmm
very strong inner monologue,
hmm
and it does come out sometimes. But yeah, during the book, I just saw that as well. You know, she's like, "Feel the almighty power of my forces." It's just like, just emoting out loud, like this
hmm
evil inner monologue that she has. It's not so much an evil inner monologue anymore, as it is just a frustrated one.
hmm
But it's like she's a
But it was
very
like,
logical person being placed in a very illogical environment. So of course she's like losing it a little bit and being like, "What the fuck is going on?" And just starting to emote that outwardly.
mhm.
Yeah.
Especially because that's the other thing too, is I'm like, this is a show. If you can't have characters have internal struggles
Yeah.
that you don't somehow explain to us, like,
Yeah. Leave that back
these
in volume 1, please.
mhm. these have to be these struggles have to be externalized for the audience.
Mm-hmm. In some way, yeah.
And also, it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
They can be goofy.
Yes, they can. It's unusual for her, but just because a character does something unusual doesn't necessarily mean it's out of character. Like, out of
Yeah.
character is something that feels wrong for the character to do, like
hmm
based on everything that you know about them up until that point. If they then do something that
hmm
completely
If
contradicts
Weiss
that,
just murdered the Red Prince, like,
literally,
that
if
would
she
be out of
straight up
character.
just like killed him, that would have been out of character, very out of character. This is unusual for her, but it is it is in character. She's struggling with this situation, so of course, like, sometimes when she sometimes she does emote that out loud.
Mhm.
Yeah, because her inner monologue just is constantly going. um she's a very internal person usually, but when I feel like when she gets overwhelmed, that becomes an external expression a lot of the time. And a lot of the time for her, it comes out in outbursts of anger, or frustration.
Yeah.
She has had a history of having a temper that boils over at
hmm
times. The party in Volume 4, for example. It's
hmm
probably the biggest example I can think of. She does explode. It happens,
hmm
and this is her exploding on a more like mellow sort of level.
hmm this is a different, like, kind of
This is a different
frustration.
kind of boiling over. Yeah.
Because, like, that's because she's not angry about the
No,
situation. She's
she's
just
frustrated.
overwhelmingly confused.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, no, this needs to make sense. Like,
Yeah, it
her
doesn't make
entire
sense.
worldview has just been flipped upside down, and so she's like, ugh.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense, so she can't cope with the fact that it's nonsensical. She's like, there has to be a logical explanation for these things, and there just isn't one. And she's like, like, she just can't deal with that. Whereas, somebody like Blake will just be like, all right, let's just roll with this, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, Weiss
I
is
almost
more
think
like,
that Blake was
mm-mm.
also like excited as well. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, at first, I think that Blake was like, I think we're in the ever after. Like, we're in one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, she's
And
almost
then,
like, this is kind of cool, almost.
hmm
If it wasn't so terrifying.
hmm
She's kind of almost enjoying herself, and Yang's definitely enjoying herself. And Ruby is just not. She's the complete opposite of where Yang is at right now. Um, because yeah, everything's turning up Yang as far as Yang's concerned. You know,
yeah,
everything's fine. Like they're all together and they're gonna figure it out. But Ruby, after everything that's just happened in volume 7 and 8, it's all, you know, just become a bit too much for her. She's going through some shit right now.
yeah. I've been listening to Inside so much lately that I'm just like, oh, Ruby, I'm so worried for what's going to happen to you soon.
Also, Yang's like worst fear is being alone, is ending up alone and having nobody,
Yeah.
and everyone she loves abandoning her, whether by choice or by accident. And so, for her to go from being completely on her own and feeling like, okay, this is it, I died, I'm dead, and this is it forever now.
hmm
And then she gets everyone back, and she's like, okay, I'm good, like, because her
Yeah.
worst fear is no longer being realized. Whereas Ruby's worst fear, I think, is failure.
Oh, yeah.
I think failure and losing the people she loves is
I was to say it's
her
also
two
she's
worst fears.
definitely
Yeah.
I think she has a very very intense fear of people dying.
Yeah.
Like because
Super intense.
obviously, when her mom died when she was very little. And I feel like that's been her main motivator ever since is I don't want people to die. Like,
It's interesting that all four of them have their own abandonment issues, but they're very different. Whereas Yang's is like a fear of being abandoned by the people she loves. Ruby's fear is more about it's abandonment, but in the sense that her mother died and Penny died and Pyrrha died. Like these people died, and in doing so, she was abandoned. But it's not from a sense of like that abandonment was the fault of theirs. It was more about her. It was almost like she blames herself for not being able to save them. So
yeah,
it's
100%.
internalized abandonment. And then Weiss has got her own abandonment issues because her family basically was never there throughout her
It's
life.
survivor's guilt.
Yeah, Ruby has survivor's guilt. Weiss is more about like she's fiercely independent
She's
because of
just
her abandonment
yeah.
problems.
She's just neglected.
Neglected, yeah, absolutely, emotionally and physically neglected by her family.
I mean, honestly, abused.
Yes, absolutely. Um, and whereas Blake's is more about she is the abandoner. She's the one who
Yeah.
always ran away. So she's got her own sort of issues there with like being the person who has abandoned those closest to her.
She abandons her problems,
Yeah.
like.
I mean, she used to. Not anymore.
Well, yeah, not
but
anymore. She's better. She's better now.
She's better now. She made Yang a promise and she has to fucking keep it.
Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah. But it's just interesting thinking about like it's the same issue at its core, but for all four of them has very different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Because of their upbringings and their life situations. Anyway, what were we talking about before I went off on that tangent?
The Red Prince.
Right.
In some way.
The camera work. I was going to talk about the camera work in this volume so far.
Oh,
because
yes.
it has been phenomenal so far. The shot in episode 3 where they like fly over the castle and come down the middle of the tower onto the board was really well done. I've been loving the camera work so far this volume. They've been taking a lot of like they've been making a lot of bold moves with the camera work, which is helping to add to the sort of what's the word I want? Like don't don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. Think of
Ambiance.
words today. Bleh. It's helping to add to the sort of like, I guess, mystical vibe of this sort of realm of like the fantasy vibes, doing all of these weird, like sweeping camera movements. It takes me back to Volume 3 a bit, because they did that a lot in Volume 3. In the second half, there was a lot of like long sweeping camera movements that were like taking you through the action as it was happening, which they hadn't done much of before then, and not that much since. Yeah, Volume 3 is
It
really
was
the only
also
thing I can think of.
it was also interesting though in that shot is we were following a butterfly down through that, and
Butterfly
that's
effect.
actually it's also in the beginning of the episode. The first thing we see is a butterfly landing in the foreground as we watch the girls climbing the hill in the background, and then like later in the episode, the cat. I just kept calling him Robbie because he's voiced by Robbie Damon. The cat is chasing after a butterfly. So I was like, there were a lot of butterflies in this episode.
Yeah, I
That was
wonder if it's
really
like symbolic of like the butterfly effect, or if it's like if there's something else there.
because my theory is related that maybe these bugs are somehow related to the like I keep calling it the hookah bug in the intro, which I think is in the glowy forest, which I think is where they're going next.
Ooh, I can't wait to see the glory forest.
So I'm kind of like, I was like, is this all like a setup for that? Are these things spying on them? Are they just cute butterflies?
It doesn't mean
But
nothing at all. I doubt it, because it's
as I
rare
say,
that
I really
anything in
doubt it
RWBY
because
doesn't mean anything.
they put so much focus on it 3 different times. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you wanted us to notice these butterflies. Why?
It's the thing is, in RWBY, things are really like inconsequential. Everything has meaning, even if it's like the scale of meaning is very large, but they don't show you. There's not much that they show you by accident. A lot of it is very intentional, and like could be set up for something that's happening much later in the story. Like they have a history of setting things up incredibly early to then pay off later. But it's like, there is a moment where we're shown something and it actually doesn't mean anything at all, especially if we're shown it more than once.
Yeah. I was just like, butterflies.
Mm.
And it was kind of interesting because at first I thought they would be related to the Red Prince in some way because they almost had like heart-esque motifs on them. But also the Red Prince didn't really have the heart motif that I was expecting
No.
of, like, well, because I was going in expecting like the King of Hearts,
Yeah. But yeah, no,
So,
they've gone out of their way to say the Red King and the Red Prince, not the King of Hearts and the Prince of Hearts or whatever.
mhm.
Yeah, it's just the Red King and the Red Prince. I guess because in RWBY, color is very centric to the entire story. So I suppose the shift to focusing more on color rather than, the King of Hearts makes sense. Especially because having a King of Hearts in RWBY, where as far as we know, um, like card decks, like
Yeah, I was about to
as
say
we
we
know
don't know
them,
if they
don't
have.
exist. So like,
Yeah.
it would be referencing something that doesn't exist in the story, so it wouldn't make sense to do that, I guess.
Yeah, if anything, those kind of symbols would more be references to like families, like they would be a
Yeah.
family emblem
Yeah.
or like a character's emblem, and not necessarily, because they're things that for us as the audience to recognize,
Uh-huh.
not necessarily like things that exist in the world.
Yeah. That makes sense to focus more on the color, because that is the centric idea to this entire story, is color at the end of the day.
And again, I also do think that there was some sort of, red versus white conflict at some point, and it wouldn't have made sense for it to be, because there isn't in decks of cards, it's red and black, so like, what's the white? But it's interesting. But yes, then the little fucker threw away Penny's sword.
That bastard.
I don't think we've seen the end of that sword.
No.
It disappeared into those bushes and will appear exactly when we need it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like those two soldiers' heads that got decapitated. They'll probably show. No, they won't.
Well, I mean, that's what you get for trying to take credit for somebody else's work.
Mm-hmm.
Brought that on themselves.
Why is it green?
Yeah. Like, they don't know that, you know, that's going to be an issue given the environment around them. But,
I mean, they're all kind of stupid.
It's true. They are. Nobody said they had brains. Yeah. So the board game.
The board game.
The board game. So this was awesome.
Yes, it was.
I was not expecting them to go that hard.
I know. I because at the beginning of my reaction, I was like, "How are they going to make chess interesting?" Like, I was because I did see. I remembered from the trailer, like seeing Weiss and Blake and Yang like on the board. So I knew that they were getting shrunk down to be on the board and that they would be pieces.
Yeah.
And so I was like, are they going to be like specific pieces? Or are we going to have like Weiss is the queen and then Blake is a bishop and Yang's a knight or something? But nope, they're just all pawns. All move forward. Stabby, stabby. Like.
Yeah. I love too that once like Weiss, Blake, and Yang started to kick some serious butt, the other pawns started to like rally behind them and be like, "Yeah, we got this." Yeah. Because obviously they normally just lose.
Yeah, because they're supposed to lose. Because
Red Prince definitely cheats.
Well, like even when Ruby sent that first one forward, it looked at the prince, and the prince was like, so.
But he didn't expect her to have 3 aces up her sleeve.
Pampers.
Literally. This was, yeah, I mean, it was so cool to get to see Weiss, Blake, and Yang fight together in that way, like so collaboratively, because we don't get to see them fight in a collaborative way so much anymore. It was a good, again, another callback to Volume 1 with the slingshot. Another one. And with the, oh my god, literal chills when Weiss summoned those Nevermore wings behind her.
Oh, behind her, she's literal angel.
I was like, oh my god, my literal fucking angel. But lots of callback, very cool. Loved it.
I also, when, I loved seeing that they gave each of them their own time to shine separately as well. Where I was, and like, oh my god, like Weiss when she like did that stand-up thing on her rapier, I was like, oh, goddess. I also for half a second I was like, here comes time dilation.
Literal
but
goddess.
No,
we haven't seen that in a long time.
I want it.
I
the
want
3
it
things I want.
I want it so much. Yeah, and also call back to Volume 2 with the swinging Yang around on Gamble Shroud as well. Just so much like call back to the early days of them working together as a team, which we haven't really gotten that much of because they spent the better part of the story since Volume 3 separated. So, and once they did get back together, we sort of got a little bit of like collaborative fighting, but
got a little bit of
not
stuff
on
in
this
6
level.
and So we saw some of it in 7, I guess, but even then
They split up though in Volume 8.
But they split up
did they split up in 7?
Well, I was thinking like in the Aesop's fight, that was the only other part where I was like they kind of cooperated, but it was pairs, not
such a good fucking fight. But yeah, it was duos rather than the 4 of them together. But yeah, a lot of the collaborative fighting we've seen with them has not been with the 4 of them, it's been with other characters. So and even though Ruby wasn't involved here, it was still cool to have the 3 of them working together like that. And
I also like that we got a little bit of fire from Ruby again. Let's kick his wooden butt.
That move though, with like slingshotting Yang with the sword from the White Knight. Oh my god, it was so freaking cool. And I'm like, I need more of this in the show. I miss this. Like, this is my favorite thing about Volume 2 was the collaborative
Mhm.
fighting. It was so
Oh yeah.
fucking good.
That's why like to this day the fight in chapter
I know. I
4
just saw it.
is like
It is
still my
still
favorite.
incredible. It is so fucking good. It's might might be my favorite piece of like Monty fight animation, apart
Hmm.
from Weiss versus the White Fang Lieutenant on the train. That kicks ass.
Oh,
And Yang
that's
versus
also really good.
Neo, and Blake versus Roman, even though that's a little shorter. But
Yeah, I
like
say that's
the train sequence and episode 4 are two of my favorite fights in the whole show.
mhm.
And it's not that close.
Yeah.
um, but you know, I mean, Monty. What can you say?
Yeah.
But this, I mean, this here was such a good homage to all of that, and something we haven't had in the show in so long, and have desperately been wanting. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it was just cool to see them work together, and like since volume 1 and 2, how much they've all grown with their semblances as well, and as fighters, um what they can do now versus what they could do then is like really
Hmm.
clearly displayed. It was really
Uh,
cool. I enjoyed it.
I also saw another thing that I was like, oh, that is a really good point. The reason that Blake ran out of ammo so quickly, because she only had like 2 shots before she was like click click click,
Yeah.
is that Weiss was using her gun
Mm-hmm.
against Cinder, and so like she was not full ammo. Like
No.
Weiss had wasted a lot of her ammo before.
And where's she gonna get a
Um,
fresh clip from?
yeah, exactly. So it's like
She didn't have any
that's
on
the
her.
other thing now is I'm like, Weiss is still low on dust because I didn't see her use any
No.
dust in the fight.
No, she didn't.
It
Yeah.
was just her semblance and
She's
stabby
saving that
stabbing.
shit for when she really needs it.
Hmm. But it's like, but you know, Blake's out of ammo now. Yang used up a decent amount of ammo, seemingly, but we didn't see that Yang didn't get any like click clicks. So
Yeah. That's the thing is like even if Ruby had Crescent Rose, what's she gonna do when it runs out of ammo? Because
yeah.
the whole like concept of that weapon relies on momentum. So and
Hmm.
she uses the kickback from the gun for the momentum to pull the
Uh,
scythe forward and back, and you know,
mhm.
and she
I mean,
could
she could
use
use
it
her
without that.
semblance.
She could use it without that momentum, but not as effectively.
Yeah.
So it's like
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, how much more
Plus,
useful
again,
would
she
she be
needs.
if she had a weapon?
Yeah.
Really?
But now she has to learn how to deal without it.
Mm. The thing is, she learned how to do proper hand to hand combat. We've seen her do
Hmm.
that before in Volume 5, but it's only really useful in certain situations, and she's still not very good at it. So,
Hmm.
like,
Plus, it's also like learning to fight without her weapon
mm,
is different than learning how to survive without her
yeah,
weapon.
exactly. Yeah,
Because, like, especially the purpose of her learning hand to hand was basically to be able to retrieve her weapon,
mm-hmm.
to not be defenseless while she has, if her weapon gets knocked out of her hands.
Yeah,
Um, Whereas this is now because she views Crescent Rose so much as an extension of herself. It's like, basically like taking her arm off and saying, deal,
yeah.
you know?
And it's like, you know, with the other three, if Weiss runs out of dust, she still has her rapier, she still has her glyphs, she still has her summons. Blake runs out of ammo, she's still got 2 swords. Yang runs out of ammo, she can still punch things. That's her whole fighting style anyway. She'll just punch shit with her fists. But like Ruby without her weapon, or without the full use of her weapon, is like her whole fighting style goes out the window. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if she learns like how to be useful without it, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of a combat sort of sense. It's kind of funny because back in Volume 4, Episode 1, when Jaune didn't have his weapon, he was also pretty fucking useless. He was
Well,
like
but
strategizing and like calling shit out and like being useful in that way, but physically couldn't do anything.
Hmm.
Um,
But also, Jean was never, especially at that point, he
yeah,
was
Jaune is no
still only.
Ruby.
Yeah, he was always like, even if he'd had his weapon in that fight, what would he have done?
Just
Like,
one of these days, I would love to see Jaune just like sock it out with somebody, like just
oh, just fist
fucking
fight.
start throwing fists. I just once I'd like to see that. We've seen Crow do it.
Hmm.
Crow's a real badass fucking fighter because it's like weapon or no weapon, he will kick your ass. Like,
Hmm.
um, but again, Crow is significantly older than them and
Yeah,
has a lot more
is like,
experience under his belt. Um, and he's also a lot stronger than Ruby at the end of the day, um, physically. But
mhm.
yeah, I mean, just once I want to see Jaune just like fucking punch somebody, like
Punch Cinder in the face.
hell yeah, mess her up. Don't do that. Actually, you'll probably die. That's a bad
Yeah.
idea. Don't. Let's not pit Jaune against Cinder yet anytime soon. He's got a bit more growing to do.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. What came after the board game part?
Well, it was after he was all like, "You cheated," and also he found out there were humans. Further proving that humans did something to the Red King.
I mean, humans
Uh,
do bad shit everywhere they go, so
it's
no one was
true.
surprised.
But then Robbie Damon showed up.
Mm. Kitty cat.
Kitty Cat.
Definitely don't
And
trust him.
oh, I don't trust him at all. Well, okay, listen. Here's the thing that I was saying is I was like, I don't. He had a couple lines that were really shifty, but I was also like, but I know that you're a catchy, so how much is that affecting my opinion of you?
There's
Like,
probably a good reason for that, because he's shady as fuck. Look, sometimes people get typecast. I think this is typecasting.
yeah.
I think they have typecast Akechi into this cat character because the cat is not to be trusted and is
Hmm.
shifty as fuck.
And also, the captions can't say a catchy, so it's just catchy.
Akechi. It's because it's set to English.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like that's not a word. um yeah.
But yeah,
Uh
it's but yeah. So the curious cat,
mm,
or as I'll probably end up referring to him as Cheshire or Robbie, because
yeah.
I did some like the curious cat. Okay, but well, they convinced. I was gonna say he, but nobody's referred to the cat as any pronouns. I don't think. I
I
don't even
don't
think
know.
anybody said they.
Mm.
Um, but yes, the cat um, convinces the king or the prince. You know, if you cut off their heads, they're broken forever. And so the prince is like, fine, they can keep their heads for now.
Who is this cat and why was it able to convince the prince not to behead them? Like
And this is what I'm like,
what's the deal with
this
this cat?
cat, this cat works for the storyteller. I think.
Hmm, maybe. He's a double agent, this cat. Can't trust him. I don't
Hmm.
trust him. I don't trust it. I trust no one.
There, I'm trying to remember what the line was that made me so like, I don't trust you, but I don't.
I'm not sure. I can't remember their lines, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it's just like there were a couple different lines where I was like, I know one of them was whatever they said right before the like big white thing happened that then teleported them outside the castle.
Mm-hmm.
They like looked at Ruby and said something, and I was like, that was kind of sinister
Yeah.
sounding like,
Um,
but
I had a thought about the crawling animation for Ruby that they did through the crawl space was really good, and that is not easy to do, but it looked very natural. It didn't look janky. Um, yeah, it's not easy to animate something like that. Just looked good. Just wanted to point that out.
yeah, that was one thing that I saw somebody say, and I'm like, honestly, I agree. I'm fine with there being another 2 year gap in volumes
Same. If this
if
is the
this is
quality
the
they can pump
quality.
out, hell yeah, give me. I will wait 2 more years for Volume 10. Like I'll wait 3 years
Like,
for Volume 10 if you need it.
yeah,
Seriously.
I will wait as long as you want. Just give like because some a lot
It's
of
not
people's
comparable. The
yeah, I
quality
say a
of this
lot of
volume to
people's
previous ones.
opinions that I've seen of people not liking animation is they're not liking the like cartooniness or they're not liking it's not that the animation is bad, it's just
It's
that
not, yeah, I can't
it's not
fault it so
vibing with
far. I
them.
haven't noticed
Like
anything in terms of animation that looks janky. Not a thing. And it's
mhm,
been 3 episodes. That has never, ever happened with the show. Normally,
mhm,
there's at least one moment an episode where I'm like, that didn't look right. Um, Not happened so far. Not that I've noticed in this volume, which I'm like, clearly it made a huge difference having that extra time to actually polish it,
mhm,
and make sure everything looked the way it was supposed to, or looked the way that they wanted it to. Because there has not been a single instance so far where I've gone, ooh, that didn't look quite right. And that usually happens once an episode. So
mhm,
um definitely even up to last volume. Like it wasn't every episode last volume, but there were definitely moments where the animation was jank. Um
mhm,
and that just happens with that's just a polish thing. If they don't have the time to polish it, then that's going to happen. There's going to be janky
mhm.
animation. It always happens. But yeah, I have not noticed anything so far, and I'm like, it has made a huge fucking difference having that extra year to really finish the show, really polish it really well,
Mhm.
without crunching people as well, because crunch also leads to
Yeah.
jank unfinished shit. um
Mhm,
because especially with crunching, um the more tired people are, the less they're gonna pick up on shit that doesn't look right, and the less they're gonna fix as a result. um so crunch does not yield a better product at the end of the day. It yields a worse
mhm,
product for sure, in a
mhm.
shorter time frame. But yeah, I'm really impressed with the quality of this volume so far. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that previous volumes have been bad quality. They haven't,
Yeah.
obviously. We haven't had a bad quality volume since volume 5. Um
Honestly, and Volume Five's
5
issues, I
was
don't.
really good still. It just fell apart at the end.
I was about to say Volume Five's issue. I love you, writers. It was a writing problem.
It was a writing problem, and it was that they tried to do too much with the time that they had.
Yeah.
14 chapters was a huge mistake, especially because they dragged the finale out over 5 fucking chapters. That was very
Hmm.
unnecessary. Um, the Honestly, the only thing I can think of in those last few chapters of Volume 5 that wasn't kind of janky and badly written and badly blocked, oh, the blocking. The blocking at the end of Volume 5. I cannot. It's a fucking nightmare. The characters are teleporting all over the place. It annoys the
Hmm.
shit out of me when I go back and watch it. I'm like, no one is facing in the direction they were facing in the last shot ever. And like,
Hmm.
people are over here and now they're over on this side of the room, and it's very obvious they have switched the side of the room people are standing on for no reason other than it makes the shot look better. But now I can tell that you've done that, and it's killing the immersion. The
Hmm.
only time that wasn't the case was the Cinder versus Raven fight.
Yeah, it
That
was
was
the
excellent.
Battle of the
That was
Maidens.
excellent, but everything around it was quite awful. So it made it stand out even more as being really good. But oh my god, what a nightmare of like just directing that last section of volume 5 was. Started off really strong, that volume collapsed at the end completely. But because they just tried to do too much. They gave themselves way too much to do with the time frame that they had. Too many
Hmm.
chapters, too much to do, too much animation, and they just had to get it out. And like
Hmm.
they cut a lot of corners to do it. It was very obvious. Anyway, we haven't since then. Things have been of a very high quality standard, um and there's been nothing that horrendous that I've seen since that volume.
Hmm.
But volume 9, like, you can really tell that the
Yeah, I would
polish
say
is there. The
it's
polish
just
is there.
it's flawless.
It's
I mean, it's not
flawless. It
flawless, but
really is
it's
flawless. Yeah. um yeah, I haven't seen anything so far that has made me go, ugh. um but yeah, and I mean that hasn't happened before. So there's definitely moments throughout volume 6, 7, and 8 where I went, no, that doesn't look right. But yeah, no. Hasn't happened yet. It's still early days. We've still got, 6 more episodes to go, but the fact that we're 3
I have high
in
hopes.
and it hasn't happened is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I have high hopes that my expectations are getting higher with every episode too, which is a bit worrying because with every episode we're getting more in danger of things getting worse.
I keep being like, just don't. I keep being like, expectations, come down.
Exactly. The higher my expectations get, the harder they can fall if it all falls apart at the end of the volume. But which I don't think it's going to. But I mean, it kind of seems like they've really, really put the polish on the episodes. So I'm hoping that quality is going to hold up throughout the whole volume. I'm expecting it to, and if it doesn't, I will notice. I will notice. I'm very aware that I'm that annoying viewer that like every time something isn't quite right, I notice it every time because for some reason I'm just really dialed into it. I'm not looking for it. I just notice it when it happens.
See, whereas I'm one of those people where I'm like, I do not show me those things, like,
I know.
then I will see it.
You're like living in blissful ignorance, and then I'm like, did you notice how jank this shot was? And you're like, well, now I notice it.
Yeah, I'm just like la la la, and I'm like, did you notice this thing that was like really obvious?
Did you see how that clipped right through their arm? And you were like, no, I didn't see that, but now I won't unsee it. Thank you.
Oh my god, literally the worst thing I ever did was I watched the like behind the scenes making of in volume 1 how they put together the fight for I think it was mostly focused on the Juniper versus the Scorpion Deathstalker. I kept wanting to say King Taijitu, and I'm like, that's
saw
Snake.
it. That's the only reason I remember.
But them versus that, and like ever since I watched how they did that and like how they did the audio and everything, I hear every individual piece in there. Like I see every individual piece now, and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that?
The sound design in early volumes was so fucking good, and it kind of dropped off in the middle volumes and they've pulled it back now. But like, just going back and watching volume 1 and 2, honestly the best thing about the volumes was the fucking sound design. It's so good, particularly in volume 1. The best thing about volume 1 is the sound design. It's impeccable. Especially considering the limited resources at the time. I definitely hear a lot of Halo sound effects in there, but that's what they had to work with. Like now Ruby has more of its own unique kind of sound. It's not really borrowing from other things as much anymore. But definitely in the early days it was borrowing a lot of sound from other things, but it sounded good. And it's like you could hear, every fucking movement of the weapons was like had an associated sound, especially in the trailers, the 4 trailers. They really put the work in with the sound design on the trailers. Yeah, Ruby's always had good sound design, except for certain moments throughout the show where it hasn't been as good, but it's probably the thing I would pick on the least in this show is the sound design. It's always been quite good from the start. I forgot what we were talking about before we went off on that tangent.
We were talking about the cat.
Right.
And how we don't trust
you were saying how like watching the behind the scenes made you pick up on that stuff that they talked about. Yeah. I feel like I really enjoy picking up on all of that stuff. Like I enjoy listening to, for example, the Red trailer. At the start of the trailer, when the vocals end and Ruby's up in the sky and she pulls out Crescent Rose, and you can hear every mechanical movement. It's eargasms for me. I love that shit. The Red trailer is just such a joy to listen to because of all of the sound that's going on with the music in the background, and like, oh, it's so fucking good. I love that shit. I eat it up. I want to hear everything as far as the sound design goes. But yeah, I get that for some people it's distracting. But for me, I'm just like, oh, that sounds so good.
Well, it's just, the thing is that like, it's more that I can hear the individual layers in it. So like, I can hear like like Jaune's line, like it's supposed to be all these people talking
You're
separately,
hyper aware of like
and
how
I'm
it's all put
hyper aware
together.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes I can see I instead of seeing the picture, I see the puzzle,
Yeah.
and it's like it kind of instantly like me right out of it.
I get that too, sometimes, but I enjoy that feeling of like I can hear how all of this was put together. I can hear the effort and the work that's gone into it. And like I can see the effort and the work that's gone into it. I like that shit, and I think it's because I like edit and like I love editing. I love figuring out how to put that sort of shit together. I like being able to see the work that people have put into a shot. And like I like being able to see that and hear that and like pick apart all the different elements and understanding how they all work together. It's like my shit. I love that.
Well, that is a thing though when I'm like editing my videos and stuff that I always have to remind myself is I always feel like sometimes I put a cut in there and it feels really harsh, but I'm like, no, it's just because I know there's a cut there.
Yes.
Like
You're hyper aware of your
I'm
own
hyper aware of the
editing.
fact
Yeah,
that the cut is
exactly.
right here.
Because you make the edit, it's obvious to you, but then you run it by someone else and they're like, yeah, looks good.
Hmm.
Because they don't notice it as much as you do. And it's same when I'm editing like audio or music. I can hear where there's a join or a cut, but then I run it by someone else's ears and they're like, yep, sounds fine to me. I'm like, okay, well, that's just me being aware of it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, going off on
The
tangents
Apple
about
phone.
editing.
Hmm. Although I don't know how much more there is to really say about the episode besides oh well we do get the confirmation that like even though at this point we kind of already knew that like time has passed. They're in the story's stupid sequel, to quote
Yeah.
Weiss.
So we're not in the stupid story. We're in its stupid sequel.
I do also love that like because and they're all still small as well. They're also trapped
Yeah.
being small. But like that like Little was leaning against Weiss sleeping, and then like a little bit later, Weiss is like leaning on Little's stomach and is just mindlessly scratching Little. That's just like I just love those little details where I'm like, you know, there's so much stuff like that that's so easy to miss.
It
But
is,
it's
and
like
it just makes the shot feel that much more alive when that sort of background like action is happening. And like little things like one character going to speak and another character interrupting them. And it's like in animation, they have to do that shit. Like they have to physically put that shit in there. It's not like with live action where like it's people that are physically just doing those things and it's being captured on camera. Animation, it's like they have to put the effort in to make sure that that character goes to speak, but then another one speaks instead. And it's like little stuff like that, and then they have to like animate, you know, them scratching Little's tummy and like stuff like that. They have to think about that consciously and put it in. It's not a matter of like just having that organically happen. It has to all be manufactured, but in a way that looks natural and makes the shot feel more natural and more alive. It's not easy to do. And it's like they have to put in, you know, 10 times more effort to do these things that are so inconsequential. And if they weren't there, most people wouldn't notice. But because the point of those things is to not really notice them. And for the show to come alive so much more because of it. Because usually if you do notice them, it's because something doesn't look quite right about it, or you know, just it's something that you just pick up on. But yeah, the little details matter, makes such a huge difference, because there's nothing worse than when you've got a shot of somebody talking in the foreground and there's people in the background that are just standing there like this. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks terrible and it should never be done. But you know, when you're working with like budget constraints, time constraints and stuff like that, you have to cut corners that way. But you know, when you're a show as big as RWBY, you can't get away with that. There's definitely a lot of that in volumes 1 and 2. Where there's like people just blankly standing in the background and it's really glaringly obvious and yuck. It's yucky.
Yes.
It makes the shot feel dead. Nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see these people as people, not as models that are being manipulated on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yes, I did see another interesting thing that people talk about is that how Ruby is now quite literally carrying her team on her shoulders, and I was like, oh, the metaphor, the symbolisms.
Just to add to the poor girl's burden a little bit more.
I know.
Why is it so hot in
Poor
here?
thing.
Sorry, I'm sweating. It was cold a minute ago.
It's just inky.
She's so flaked. And then she goes, stretch! My goodness, big stretch. So cute. Hello. You're distracting me, Inky. Yeah. Oh god, I had a thought. Oh, you had a theory that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, well, the last thing actually in the episode that I kind of forgot about is the Jabberwocker and Neo scene.
Right, yes. We need, this thing.
So we saw the Jabberwocker leaving the beach acre into this like creepy, dark acre, and it like went by some grass, and then the grass was all red, and I'm really fixated on is the Jabberwocker's blood, and is it red? And so does that mean something? Is the Jabberwocker human? Was the Jabberwocker human?
I don't know if it's human so much as it is actually alive, because we're used to Grimm, which obviously don't bleed because they're not alive. It's definitely alive. I don't know about human necessarily. It's alive and it's intelligent. That's as much as we really can say. But, it was alive. Neo's sorted out.
I've seen people say that apparently, I didn't notice this, there's a scene in one of the trailers with Yang versus the Jabberwocker that we haven't seen yet, so...
Might be a different Jabberwocker.
It could be.
There could be more than one.
It could be, yeah. But yeah, so people are like, Neo didn't kill the Jabberwocker, and I'm like, Neo fucked it up at the very least.
Yeah. So, Neo and her clones.
Yes. Well, also, I think the most interesting fact is that Neo only just arrived.
Yeah, she just fell. But we don't know if this is coinciding with the events that are currently happening with the rest of... Is it happening at the same time? We don't know.
We don't know, but it's definitely after the events of episode 1.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't say that for sure.
Well, but the Jabberwocker was fleeing from them.
Yes, you're right. So I can say that for sure. You're right. I forgot about that bit.
So that's why
it's after episode 1. Whether it's necessarily coinciding with other events in episode 3 remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm. But also, I don't imagine a ton of time has happened.
But it's interesting, though, if Neo has just fallen.
Yeah.
And all of the Ruby girls already fell some time ago, like, let's say an hour or 2 ago. And Jaune has been here for longer than any of them.
Mm-hmm.
What's the deal? Why did they all arrive at such separate times? And Neo and Ruby fell together.
Yeah, like...
So, like...
that's why I'm like, I feel like there's got to be somebody puppeteering when these people enter the fray.
Something's controlling this because it's too... Otherwise, it's too random. Like, there's no sense to it.
I mean, it could also just be, like, the chaos of it, you know? Yeah. But, like, yeah, I just thought it was really interesting that this is...
different times.
Yeah,
so
like, that was one of the biggest things that when I was like, shit, this is Neo's entrance. Like... Neo's only just arriving, like, what?
Blake and Weiss found each other first, having fallen at different times. Yang fell first, and it seemed like she was either the first there, or she was there at the same time as the other Ruby girls. Jaune's been there the longest, and he fell last. And Neo fell with Ruby, but didn't land at the same time, or anywhere near her. So it's like, what's going on? It's so random, there's, like, no sense to any of it. I need to know. I need
I know.
answers, damn it.
Give me the answers.
What's going on with Jaune? I need to know.
Well, so the reason that the other thing I was gonna say about Neo was that I don't know why when Neo started making all those other clones, I just was like, yeah, that's a thing Neo can do.
We have never seen her do this before.
And we've
never.
we've never. And so when like she looked really confused,
she looked like she didn't know she could do that.
So when she looked really confused, I was like, "What's?"
Your brain just went, "Yeah, that's a normal Neo thing," when it definitely isn't.
It definitely wasn't. And so I was like, "What?"
Definitely
so
new.
Is she just like more powerful here, or like did she not like intend to do this? What's happening? And
it definitely seemed like, just judging by her reaction, she had no idea she could do that, and it was a complete accident.
I was about to say it was 100%. Her semblance evolved.
Yeah,
which is I think especially interesting that now she can make more of herself because she can only rely on herself.
The question is, are her clones similar to Sun's clones, or are they more like Blake's clones, or are they their own sort of thing?
Well, the thing that I noticed is because her thing is kind of mirror images.
Yeah, they all
they all
mirror her. Yes, they do.
There was because especially like when she looked to the side, there was kind of this like traveling mirror effect. So I was like, but then when they were all walking at the Jabberwocker, that was all different. So I was like, I don't know.
It's very interesting.
But yeah,
I look forward to learning more, and it's gonna make things very interesting. For when eventually she does. Oh, my flag is falling down. It's probably gonna fall over the camera at some point here. What was I saying? It's gonna make things very interesting for when Neo and the others confront one another. As if Neo needed any more overpoweredness.
You need to be more powerful. It's like, let's make 7 of her.
Because one Neo isn't bad enough, apparently.
Yeah, one Neo kicks our ass, so let's take on an army of them.
Literally. One Neo held her own against Cinder, for God's sake. Mind you, Cinder was not trying to kill her. But, still.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why people are now thinking that all the shadows in the background of her part of the intro are all just like more
her clones,
images or her clones, and you're like, maybe she can make them look different because she can make herself look different.
She's an illusionist, so this evolution of her semblance makes sense. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I just love her reaction, being like, I did not know I could do this. Just being like,
well, I just love it so much because it also makes perfect sense that now would be the time for her semblance to evolve as well, because she truly cannot rely on anybody else anymore. Like, Cinder has betrayed her, and even though I don't think she ever fully trusted Cinder,
oh god no, she probably saw that coming a mile away.
But it's truly she now knows I cannot rely on anybody but me. And so then her semblance is, becomes I can make more me. Like, I just am like, oh, it's so perfect.
Neo is such a wild card for me. I don't know if she's gonna. I still feel like her and Jaune are gonna be the main antagonists of this story arc.
I'm so curious for what happens in the next episode.
Yeah, me too. I just want to see Jaune. I want to see him. I'm so worried about him. I miss my poor baby. What was I talking about? Neo. I don't know if she's gonna go the route of staying the antagonist, or if she's gonna turncoat for her own convenience because she wants to get back at Cinder, or if I still can't really tell.
I have no idea what they're gonna do with her.
She's such a wild card. Because I'm like, if she does turncoat and joins them for her own convenience of wanting to get back at Cinder and fuck Salem,
she also still wants to kill
Emerald
Ruby.
could be so cute.
Oh yeah.
Because Emerald's back there waiting for him in Vacuo,
Mm-hmm.
having freshly turned her coat herself.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
I'm
wait for an
mostly just
Emerald
like,
and Mercury confrontation. It's gonna be so good.
oh
It's gonna be
yeah,
so
will
good.
be.
Anyway, as
But
in the
yeah,
future, I'm not gonna think about that yet.
but yeah, I know. I'm more curious to see what's gonna happen when Ruby and Neo end up in the same room together again, because like Neo still wants to kill Ruby.
And Ruby
Like
doesn't have a weapon.
you killed fucking Roman, who
Mm.
took care of me, and I liked him.
Technically, the Grim ate him.
Yeah, well, Neo clearly
Technically,
doesn't
Ruby didn't do
care.
anything.
But
Technically. But yeah, no, she doesn't give a shit. Um,
it's gonna be interesting.
mm, it is going to be very interesting. I need to know what's going on with Jaune because I'm very
I
concerned about
know.
him. He's been through a lot of trauma, and I just need to know if he's okay. And
Well, yeah,
also, I'm
I
looking
don't.
forward to his villain arc.
Again, I don't think he's gonna fully recognize them when they first meet him.
I need to know. I need to have my questions about Jean answered because I want to know if where my theories are on the right track of like how long has he been here? Like what is his deal? Did he take that deal that that woman in the trailer offers Ruby? Is that like is that a thing? Like I have so many questions. I need them. I need the answers. I need to know. I need to know, am I smart or am I completely off here? I have no
Listen,
idea.
I don't think you are, because it's basically what I think as well. I just don't know if he's necessarily going to be a villain, but I don't
My
really know
flag
what
just
his
fell.
role would be.
Sunlight. Oh my god.
But yeah, I'm just like, I definitely think that he took that deal, but then I'm like, ugh. But if he took that deal, how can he tell them about like what actually happened, and like, I don't know. And again, especially because I also think that like we might see the hookah bug in the next episode. So are they not gonna meet Jean, or is Jean gonna be with the hookah bug?
Look,
And
we're about to be at 4 of 9 episodes. Like, we don't have that much screen time left. If they're gonna get to Jean, they're gonna have to do it kind of soon, I feel like. I feel like
is it 9 or is it 10 episodes?
9. Is it. Wait, is it 9 or 10? Now I'm not sure. It's 10. It's 10. I'm getting it
Okay.
wrong. I'm confusing it with the volume number.
Oh.
10 episodes. We're at episode 4 out of 10, so I'm like,
Yeah.
where's Jean? Come on now. Like, I don't want them to leave it too late in the story because I'm like, then we have to condense
Well,
that part of it.
Well, the reason I think we're seeing Jean in the next episode, though, is because the next event. Well, the only two events still left in Alex's journey are meeting the Rusted Knight and getting out through the tree,
Mm-hmm.
which clearly they are going to make it to the tree, but not be able to get out right away.
Yeah.
Like,
I reckon in episode 4 we will see Neo meet Jean, but I don't know if they will tell us that it's Jean just yet. We're gonna know it's him,
we're gonna know, but we're not gonna
but they're
know.
not gonna explicitly like show us him. We're just gonna know it's him, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, yeah, I still feel like that person Neo sitting across from in the intro is Jean. I still feel like the two of them are gonna be like the partners in crime in this sort of arc of the
I mean,
story.
I'm the more that I'm leaning into my storyteller thing, though, the more I'm like, maybe Neo's
Maybe.
maybe Neo's hatching some storylines, you
Maybe.
know. But I don't know. But I do think that we will see Jean, or we will see the Rusted Knight in this next
You
episode.
better. I'm worried about him.
Yes.
I just need him to be okay. The
I
poor
just
thing.
want to see my boy.
Mm.
But yeah, I know. The problem is I'm like, I need them to meet up with Jean, because honestly, my predictions for the volume, probably beyond this next episode, I have zero clue. because they're already like they have traveled through three of the four realms that we saw
Mm.
in the like intro picture book thing. So I'm like, what? Eh, we don't have that much left to travel, but we still have so much volume left to do. So
I
like, what the
know.
fuck?
Yeah. It's progressing too quickly. Something like there's got to be some other spanner in the works happening here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, besides having to figure out how to get the other girls big again,
Mm-hmm.
but
Well, I mean that's gonna be a problem.
hmm
I
I think
assume
the
the
hookah bug could probably help them with that.
I assume the curious cat is gonna help them out with that.
Hmm.
And lead them to the person who can, and they'll probably have to do something for them to fucking it's probably gonna be a whole
Hmm.
thing on its own. Um, I feel like this volume is gonna follow like a very RPG-esque kind of like story structure. Um, because it is almost like they're trapped in a video game in a way.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean,
because it's like, okay, well now we've got to go see this NPC and do this quest for them so we can not be small anymore.
yeah.
Like, yeah, we're gonna go talk to the Red Prince, um, and beat him at a game of rigged chess. Like, like it's very RPG. So, um, yeah. I don't have anything more to add to my theories this week. I'm still holding fast on what they were originally.
Yeah, I was going to say nothing that's happened thus far has made me be like,
We're
well,
still
the
very
only thing
much in the
is,
setup phase.
yeah, well, it's the only thing that's thrown a spanner kind of in the works is that Neo only just showed up.
Yeah.
I do also think though, I am kind of curious about what I said about the intro with the like two lights, blue lights that fell.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it looked kind of similar to the effect of what happened when Neo fell. So I'm like, are we going to get two more people showing up?
Who would that be? Who would show up? Because the only
I
other
have
people that
no
fell
idea.
would be the people Cinder blasted off the bridge.
Yeah.
And who's to say they'd
But
even
again, time.
survive the fall?
Hmm. But the other thing is time's weird here.
Time is weird here.
Clearly,
And nobody
maybe
could
maybe
come
this
back through
is.
from Vacuo, so it's not Ren or Nora or Winter or any of them. They're not
Hmm.
coming through. Or Oscar or
Yeah. So
Nancy.
I'm like, is that more people falling? Also, I did see somewhere. Last time we said that the thing talked about those two things in the sky as moons.
Mm.
We were like, but they look like suns. But the script had them listed as moons. I think I saw on Twitter that somebody came out and said they were suns.
Oh, yeah, see, I was gonna say
So
moons didn't make sense. They definitely looked like suns. I was like, what do
so
you mean
I'm
they're
kind of
moons?
like I'm like I don't know. The two
I feel like
planetary
they're
things in the
suns. I
sky.
think they're suns. I don't think they're moons. They didn't look moon-like. They looked like
Yeah.
suns. Um, I've just had two very random thoughts, and I don't think either of them are gonna. Because what you were saying about the two star shooty thingies. If
Hmm.
there was gonna be two other people falling in here that are characters of any significance, James Ironwood is a like a 1% possibility, but
Oh
still,
yeah.
he's the only other one that we are aware of that was in proximity to a door while it was still open.
Yeah.
And we never saw him die, so no
Hmm.
body, no death. I really hope it's not him. I don't see a reason why they would do that, so that's why I'm not
Yeah.
fond of that
I
idea.
mean, also, I'm just gonna say blue kind of works for Ironwood.
Blue.
What color was Ironwood's aura actually?
Blue? What do you mean blue?
Because there were two
Oh,
blue lights.
what color was his aura? Good question. I think it was blue. Was it like it was like a light blue, wasn't it? I don't think it was white. I think it was blue. It wasn't white or black or red or anything like that. It must have been
Let's
blue.
see.
I don't remember. But the only other possibility I can even think of
Aura
is,
color is blue.
yeah, the only other character I can possibly think of is Crow.
But Crow was nowhere near a door though.
I know he was in the airship at the end of Volume 8, but he's the only other person I could logically see leaping in after them. if he like
Yeah.
somehow came to the conclusion that that's what happened. But it's a question of how the hell would he get down there? How would he come to that conclusion? And also the realm is disappeared, and that's why Jaune fell.
Yeah.
So it's not even there anymore. So it's a lot of question of how the fuck would he even get in there in the first place. But I'm like, I don't really see any other characters being significant enough and having like enough of a reason to go down there.
I mean, there is also the other thing too, is that because the intro also doesn't display things like chronologically as well, because like clearly it ends with us seeing Alex waking up on the beach.
Yeah.
So like it could be that like maybe one of those stars was Alex. Maybe Alex, and like I pointed out in her portrait in the intro, there was another like person standing behind her in her portrait.
Yeah.
So maybe those two things were her and whoever that other person were falling into the realm, and that's what.
Because the only other explanation is it's Jaune and Neo, but then why would they both be blue?
Yeah.
When the Ruby Girls ones were their colors, it wouldn't make sense for Jaune and Neo to be blue. Yeah.
I know. It's one of those like tiny details that I'm fixated on. That's probably of absolutely zero significance.
Consequence. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have anything more to add, we should wrap this shit up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think so.
All right, cool.
Oh, you know what we never talked about?
What?
The song that played during
the
fight scene.
Yeah!
We completely forgot to talk about that.
I know! I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting there to be a song there.
I was, because I saw Casey tweet that there was something in the thing that was like, oh, you guys aren't, like, this next episode's like Bop City or something like that. So I was like, what does that mean?
I'm so looking forward to the Volume 9 soundtrack.
I know, me too.
After the disappointment that was Volume 8.
No.
That we
I'm so sorry, Jeff, but 8 was so disappointing. I will say it again, and I've said it before, my biggest disappointment was that Cinder song from Cinder's backstory did not get elaborated on at all.
Yep.
It that was just it. I was like, that could have been such a good song.
Yep. They could have done such cool, interesting things with it. They did nothing with it. I'm upset, and I will be upset about it forever. Most anticipated song on the soundtrack, and fucking they did nothing with it.
And it was 1.5 minutes long.
Christ. I get that it was a difficult year. But yeah, I mean, the soundtrack was disappointing. Let's not beat around the bush. But I'm looking forward to Volume 9.
I'm so looking forward to Volume 9's. Even just like these first 2 little tidbits.
It's gonna be good. I'm liking the new sound that Casey and her band are bringing to Ruby. It's the same sound, but it's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's still
fresh.
Casey, but it doesn't have it doesn't have that like Jeff element to it now. It's definitely different from what it was. It's a different sound for Ruby, but I'm enjoying it so far.
And it also works though as well for this volume, especially because like if you tried to play this song over like a different fight scene, it would have felt completely out of place.
Weird, yeah. It wouldn't have been right. Yeah. Alright, let's wrap this shit up. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you are watching this live on Twitch, as you all are, the people who are watching this right now, this will be up on YouTube in 7 days. Tweet at me if I don't do it. But the first episode of this season, episode 72, is up on my YouTube now. If you're watching this one on YouTube, this is being live streamed every second Saturday at 3 p.m. AEDT. So if you're watching this on the day it went up on YouTube, then it's next Saturday from 3 p.m.
The next one's on the 24th/25th.
Yes, the next one is on the 25th.
It's the day before episode 6 comes out.
Yes, correct. That would be when
it's roughly 12 hours before the episode comes out.
Roughly, yes. it's like 11 and a half hours before it comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these are live streamed on Twitch every second Saturday. So make sure you can follow me on Twitch and follow Corey on Twitch as well, because in between doing the podcast, we also stream gaming stuff at the same time on Saturday. So it'll be podcast game, like that until the end of the volume. And then we normally stream on Saturdays. We also occasionally stream Final Fantasy XIV with Nerd of Oz. I almost said Nerds of Oz. Nerd of Oz.
I know.
At night times on Saturdays whenever there's a new patch out. So we stream that as well occasionally. So if you're interested in any of that, chuck us a follow on Twitch. All of the links will be in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks, bitches.
Yes.
Did you just...
What did I do?
You just whipped.
Did I whip?
Yes, you did.
Do I need to nay-nay?
You did it twice. Okay, bye.
Bye.